name is Jessica Spencer, and this is my book club, and I'll be discussing chapter 2 of the book Profit First. When Mike, the author, hit rock bottom, he started drinking really heavily. He started watching QVC in the middle of the night and drinking and eating Cheetos. And fortunately for us, he ran into an infomercial about weight loss and dieting. And he shares with us how those principles transfer to financials. So you would think that your daughter bringing you her piggy bank, telling you that you can have the money and that you're going to be financially okay would be awakening for you, but that isn't what woke him up. It was obviously a horrible day for him and heartbreaking, and he'll never forget it, but it didn't change things for him. He didn't change until he realized these ideas that he shares with us. So, some people have to hit the bottom and then be dragged across the ground, scraping at their knees on every rock before they learn. That's what he describes in the book. And so, for us, hopefully we can catch up and learn these things through him instead of having to learn it on our own. So he talks about how this small plate philosophy that people use for weight loss is actually helping him in his business. So a lot of us, including myself, I'll eat everything that's on my plate. I often don't go and get seconds, but I never have anything left over on my plate at the end of the meal. That's kind of similar to what we do with our money. We spend everything that's on the plate in front of us. And this is just how our brains work. But in the diet world, if you took your plate and you first filled it with the meat, and then you ate your vegetables, by the time the starch came around, you would be full and you wouldn't binge on those things because the good things filled you up in the very beginning. So he talks about how if you ate 5 meals a day, the way that your body is probably supposed to, you would never be hungry. So you would never get into this cycle that's unhealthy and you would never binge. Well, this is the kind of philosophy that he has towards money as well. So he talks about how frugal he was when he was broke. And then once he started making a lot of money, he just threw caution to the wind and spent money all the time. And so he didn't realize how unprofitable his business was because he kept selling his businesses and then letting somebody else sort out whether it was profitable or not. So businesses looked profitable because he wasn't taking any money out of them. But in reality, whoever bought these businesses hopefully was able to figure it out and start managing the money better. He talks about something called loss aversion. And basically, as our income goes up, so do our expenses. And we convince ourselves that we need all of these things. I need a new brick and mortar. I need an assistant. I need a new copier. I need all of these things. I need the newest cell phone. Guilty. I need a brand new car. Guilty. You need you convince yourself that you will need all of these things, but then when money slows down, you have this loss aversion where you don't want to get rid of all the things that you've acquired. So we kind of tend to protect the things that we have very fiercely, whether we should or not. And so eventually what happens is our income ends up our expenses end up catching up to what we're making ends up catching up to what our spending is. And so sometimes you'll make a bunch of money at once, and this happens a lot in real estate. Every spring you make a lot of money, and then you think like, oh, this is what it's going to be like from now on. I'm just going to make this much money all the time. And then your expenses meet that income that you have. And then when money slows down again, you don't want to get rid of all the fancy new things that you've acquired. And so he talks about having a small plate, because if we have less in front of us, we'll spend less. And so it's kind of the philosophy of a 401k. We don't think of a 401k as our money, because while it is, there's penalties to get it out. There's taxes that you have to pay on it. So basically the penalty for taking out your money is so egregious that we just leave it in there. And it's out of sight, out of mind. You never touch it, because it oftentimes, if you're in a business where your employer puts that money into that account, you never touch it. Maybe if there's something catastrophic, you might have to borrow against it or something like that. But generally speaking, we just leave that money there forever. And so that's kind of the idea that he's trying to wake us up to. So the first one is to use small plates. So the more we have, the more we spend. And this is kind of why when I need to do a market analysis so I can go on a listing appointment, I don't get it done until 3 minutes after I'm supposed to leave. Because if I have an hour, I'm going to take an hour. If I have 20 minutes, I'm going to get it done in 20 minutes. If I have 7 minutes, I'm going to get it done in 7 minutes, because you end up using everything, the entire amount that you have. The second point he makes is the primacy effect. And that is the first thing we see is the thing that we focus on. When we focus on profit, it becomes the most important and it expands. If we focused on sales minus expenses equals profit, then we would be focusing on profit last, and then by the time you get to the last one, it's not important to you and you're not growing it. And so the third is to take away temptation. Move your money out of your face so that you're not tempted to spend it. If I don't have junk food in my house, that's ironic that I moved out of the way so you can see the cake on my kitchen table. Tonight was my daughter's, we had a celebration for my daughter. And so if there wasn't cake over my shoulder, like a little devil, I wouldn't eat it. If there wasn't junk in my house, I'm not going to go put on hard pants and go buy some. I would just eat what's here in my house. And if I'm hungry, I would make myself food. So removing temptation is really important for this process to be successful. The other thing is enforcing a rhythm. So he talks about what we talked about eating 5 meals a day. If you eat every time you're supposed to, you never get hungry and you never binge. And so you never end up eating junk because you're desperate because you haven't eaten all day. And so you can stay out of that reaction mode if you don't look at your money all the time. And so he suggests that you monitor your money on the 10th and 25th. And he says we'll go into that in more detail later in the book. So we can end up in a growth trap. And so basically you think that I just have to grow and grow and grow this business in order for it to be profitable. But the truth is, the fastest, healthiest growth comes from a business that prioritizes being profitable. And the owners that are making money and just leaving it in their business are not profitable. They're faking profit to grow their business. And what good does that do? If you aren't paying yourself, if you're not making a profit, then what is all of this for? How is this worth the time away from my kids if it's not to provide for them? My kids don't care if Spencer Real Estate is profitable. What my kids care about is having money to be on a basketball team, or money for their birthday cake, or meeting the needs of my children. And so when you take your profit first, you'll know right away if your business is healthy. Because if you can't afford profit, then that means there's a lot of fat that needs to be trimmed in your business. And so you have to focus on doing more of what makes you profitable and cutting the rest. And so our new accounting formula is going to be sales minus profit equals expenses. And so when your money comes into your account, you're going to dish it out on the rhythm days, the 10th and the 25th. So the money goes into, when your money comes in, it automatically, you're going to move it to different accounts. So here are the 5 accounts. This is the backbone of this book. Number 1, your first account is income. Your second account is profit. Your third account is owner's compensation. Your fourth account is taxes. Womp womp. And your fifth account is operating expenses. So it's important to serve those things sequentially. So allocate money based on percentages to the accounts first before anything else. If you don't have enough money to pay for the expenses at the end, then that means that you have more expenses than your business can support, and it's time to cut the fat. It's time to trim the fat. So the third thing is remove temptation. Make that money hard to get to. Put it with your Uncle Ron. So I'm fortunate enough that I have an uncle who is in the financial wealth business, and he manages people's 401ks and things like that. So he is my literal uncle. He's my dad's brother-in-law, and he manages my money. So if I send my money to Uncle Ron, I don't want to be able to get to it. I want it to sit there, and I want to not even remember that I have it. I want to not even have a login. I live in Michigan. Uncle lives in Indiana. I don't want to see it. I don't want to even really know it's there, because if I know it's there, then I'm going to want to spend it. So I want to have to call Uncle Ron and say, hey, Uncle Ron, this is what I'm working on. I need money for this. And the reason is because Uncle Ron, whether he's your literal uncle or not, he cares about my financial well-being. So having to call him and tell him what I'm doing, what my plan is, just gives me an added layer of accountability for my money. And so basically you just want to put that money away and not touch it and not even look at it. And so basically the fourth point is to enforce a rhythm. Do your money transfers on the 10th and the 25th, because then you're not constantly focusing on it and you're not moving into that binge mode, or the opposite, joyfully spending your money because you have so much of it. So we're really going to take this book by baby steps. We're going to take it slowly. We're going to really focus and try to meditate on the lessons that we're learning so that we can really orchestrate them and do them and put them into practice. So we're going to, instead of taking a big leap, we're just going to take baby steps. So the first thing we did was set up an account. So we're going to need to set up an account and then transfer 1% of your money into that account and then just leave it alone. So the book would recommend that you first trust the process, 2, open an account, 3, put 1% of your money in it. So if we can just cut it down to these little bite-sized pieces, and that's all we need to focus on today, is just open that account and transfer 1% of your money. Ideally, that account will not be at your regular bank. It's going to be somewhere tricky to get to. And when they ask you to set up the online portal, you'll just say, no, thank you. I would like to come in and drop off a check on the 10th and 25th and never touch it again. So that is chapter 2 of Profit First. And I'm really looking forward to continuing to be profitable with you.